They rationed bread to slices thinner than a coin. They boiled bones until even the marrow surrendered. And when that failed, they turned to foods most people today would walk past without a second thought. These weren't novelty recipes pulled from old cookbooks. They were survival systems developed in blackout kitchens, on scorched farmland, and inside bomb-damaged cities where supply trucks stopped coming for months at a time. Every ingredient had to justify its existence. Nothing was wasted, nothing assumed to be replaceable. Flour was stretched with forest nuts. Weeds became vegetables. Scraps became meals that kept bodies moving and minds steady. 8 decades later, most of these recipes are disappearing, not because they stopped working, but because modern life forgot why they mattered. In the next real crisis, these may be the only foods that still make sense. Let's get into them. Acorn flour bread replaced grain when fields and trade collapsed. When wheat and rye vanished from shelves across Europe, rural families didn't wait for relief. They went into the forests. Acorns became a reliable grain substitute, abundant, calorie-dense, and easy to store. The key was removing tannins. Acorns were shelled, crushed, then soaked in repeated changes of cold water for several days until bitterness disappeared. The meal was dried, ground fine, and mixed with whatever grain flour remained, sometimes none at all. The result was a dense, dark loaf that baked slowly and kept well without refrigeration. This bread mattered because it bypassed farms, mills, and markets entirely. Anyone with access to oak trees and patience could produce weeks of food. In a modern crisis, the same method applies. Knowledge, not infrastructure, does the work. Nettle soup bridged the hunger gap between winters and harvests. Early spring was the most dangerous time nutritionally. Stores were empty, gardens bare, and bodies weakened from months of preserved food. Nettles emerged before anything else and were packed with iron, calcium, and vitamin C. Young tops were harvested carefully, boiled to neutralize the sting, then added to simple broths with potatoes, barley, or oats. The soup wasn't elegant, but it restored nutrients fast. This wasn't desperation food. It was targeted nutritional recovery. Today, nettles still grow everywhere. The only barrier is knowing when to harvest and how to neutralize them safely. Roasted barley coffee preserved routine when morale mattered most. Coffee imports disappeared almost overnight during the war. What replaced them wasn't caffeine, but ritual. Barley was roasted slowly until dark, ground, and brewed like coffee. Sometimes chicory or acorn was added for depth. The drink offered warmth, bitterness, and familiarity. That mattered. Maintaining daily routines helped people endure long-term stress. From a survival standpoint, this teaches a critical lesson. Psychological stability is a resource. When real comforts vanish, substitutes keep people grounded enough to keep going. Sauerkraut preserved vitamins when fresh food was impossible. Cabbage became a winter staple because fermentation solved 2 problems at once. It preserved food without fuel or refrigeration and retained vitamin C, preventing scurvy. Shredded cabbage was salted, packed into barrels, and left to ferment naturally. Families pulled from the same barrel all winter, adding sauerkraut to soups and stews to stretch calories and nutrients. The method required planning, not technology. In any prolonged disruption, fermentation remains one of the most reliable preservation systems available. Potato pancakes turned one staple into multiple meals. Potatoes dominated wartime diets because they were resilient and productive. But, you know, monotony was dangerous. Grated potatoes, mixed with minimal flour and fried into thin pancakes, created a portable, calorie-dense meal. These could be eaten fresh or cold, carried to fields, and shared among multiple people. The technique concentrated energy while improving morale. It's a reminder that preparation method matters as much as the ingredient itself. Dandelion salad restored freshness without cultivation. Young dandelion leaves were harvested before flowering, washed and eaten raw or lightly blanched. Dressed with vinegar or preserved brine, they delivered vitamins long absent from winter diets. No seeds, no soil preparation, no tools, just timing and recognition. Wartime families understood seasonal windows and exploited them fully. That skill is disappearing, not because plants stopped growing, but because people stopped looking. Meat stretch stew turned scraps into sustained nourishment. When meat was available, it was never cooked alone. Small cuts or bones were simmered slowly with vegetables and grains, allowing flavour and nutrients to permeate the entire pot. Stews cooked all day were reheated repeatedly and fed entire households from a single piece of meat. This wasn't thrift, it was systems thinking. One ingredient powered many meals. Modern equivalents exist, but the mindset is rare. Fruit leather preserved harvest sugars without sugar. Windfall apples were cooked down, mashed, spread thin, and dried into sheets that lasted months. No preservatives, no refrigeration. Fruit leather stored calories, vitamins, and sweetness in a compact form. It travelled well, resisted spoilage, and prevented waste. This method transformed fragile fruit into durable energy. It still works exactly the same way today. They didn't survive because they had full cupboards. They survived because they knew how to turn almost nothing into enough. These recipes weren't cuisine. They were shields against hunger, forged by necessity and memory. Most are fading with the last generation that use them daily. If that knowledge disappears, all that's left is dependency. Subscribe to the Wartime Frontlines, share this with someone who understands why history matters, and help keep the skills alive that once carried entire families through the hardest years of modern history.